Good morning. It's Lisa with Lisa Heal Yourself. And today I want to talk about the pleasure that we get out of negative patterns, negative behaviors, pain, suffering. So if you're having pain and you're suffering or you're just having this negative reactions, whatever is causing you pain and suffering, whatever is causing you anxiety, stress, whatever it is, I want you to acknowledge today and look for ways that you're finding pleasure in those behaviors, in those reactions, in those feelings. So I know it's our first instinct to say, no, I'm not getting any pleasure out of this pain. I'm not getting any pleasure out of this suffering. I'm not getting any pleasure out of this negative pattern or behavior. I'm not getting anything out of this, bad, tense relationship that I keep having with my children or my husband or whoever it is. No, I'm not getting any pleasure out of it. I want, my body symptoms to stop. I want my pain to stop. There's nothing good coming from this. But I think it's really important, first, that we acknowledge that pleasure, and not in the form of pleasure the way you think of it, oh, that's so pleasurable. But you're getting something out of it, something positive, something that you need. So you're getting something you need. Rather than saying pleasure, I'll say you're getting what you need from it. So it makes you feel good in some way. So maybe, you cause a fight, or you like to control, or you cause drama, or you cause this sort of negative spiral and go into the unconscious behaviors that you have with, say, your spouse or your children or your parents or whatever it is, okay? Whoever that person is that's close to you. And you do that subconsciously, unconsciously. The pleasure in that is maybe you want a way to better communicate with them. You want to feel loved by them, or you want attention, or you want to feel close to them. So maybe this drama that you create, or this negative cycle that you create with them, is a way that everything stops. You talk about your feelings. You're kind of in this fight, but you're being heard. Your feelings are being listened to. You're being given attention. Maybe that's an example. Sometimes we might be creating pain or suffering in some way because we need space. Maybe we have all this pain, like a headache or a major pain flare, or pain spikes up, physical pain. And it's really that we just can't endure what's going on around us. Maybe that we're looking for, maybe the pleasure part in that is we are looking for a way to escape, to crawl into bed, to go take a minute by ourselves to meditate, or to go for our walk, or to go do an enema in the bathroom, or whatever it is. Maybe it's this alone time that you're craving, and there's no structure in place otherwise for you to take it, except if you're in pain. Then you get comfort, then you get love, then you get your tea, then you get your break, then you get to, have your alone time, or go for your walk, or have your space, or whatever it is. So maybe that's the pleasure in it, right? Maybe there's so many things. I could go through lists and lists of them, but in some way you're getting pleasure, meaning you're having a need met from this pain and suffering that's actually giving you something. Maybe it's your release to cry, right? Maybe when things get so bad, you give yourself permission to cry and to talk about your feelings and to grieve your losses, or to miss, someone who's died, or anything that's happened, right? You give yourself permission to just cry, to feel, to let it out. And maybe you never do that. Maybe you don't generally do that. So the pleasure in the pleasure, the small pleasure, is actually crying. And you just never give yourself to feel otherwise. And so even though it's feeling bad things, even though it's feeling things that we don't even want to normally feel, and things we want to repress, there's actually pleasure there because we know we need to do it. And it feels good to cry and to let it out and to release it, right? Maybe we need comfort or a hug, Maybe there's no structure in place. A lot of times there is no structure in place for us to be able to cry, or to get this comfort, or to get these hugs, or to have this alone time, or to be able to do the things that we really want to do, or to be lazy, or to crawl into bed, or to get out of something, not do the dishes, not go to that event, right? So we often, there is often like a way that we meet our needs with negative behaviors, negative patterns, pain, suffering, and it's often our acknowledgement, or that we need to sit back and acknowledge, like, yes, I'm going to break this cycle down. I'm going to really step back, observe it, and look at it through a different lens and say, what am I getting out of this? Maybe that doesn't give you pleasure, but that feels good in some way that you can't get any other way, right? Like this fight, maybe you need to release and like be able to say all your feelings, and maybe creating some sort of a fight or an argument with your spouse gives you permission to say things that you've been holding on to, and he finally does something little and you launch into all the things, right? And all these things from the past come up, and maybe you're just waiting for this, like you create this situation because you actually need to say these things. Like you need to say, I don't think you care about me, or I don't think that you're paying enough attention to me, or I don't feel like you are sensitive to my needs or my feelings, or I'm not getting what I want out of this relationship, right? There's all these things that maybe we don't choose to say, or there's no structure in place to say. And so the only way that we can say it is when we get in enough pain, right? And create situations and create pain and create suffering. And we're like subconsciously, this is so subconscious, we're subconsciously creating these ways that we can get our needs met. Do you see? So you don't even think there's anything good about it, because all you're doing is arguing or yelling or crying or, you know, whatever. And you're like, well, that's not good. But think about it a little further. Maybe you needed that cry. Maybe you needed to argue and let all those things out of your body. Maybe that's subconsciously the pleasure, right? And we can't ever see that because it's so backwards and it's so strange and it doesn't even make sense. But there's pleasure in these patterns. There's pleasure in this pain pattern that you're playing out. There's pleasure in the suffering. We are getting something that we need, or either getting, there's so many things that we could be getting. So it's time to really deconstruct our pain patterns, our negative relationship patterns, right? We go unconscious. Most of the time, we're just living out a pattern. Most of the time, we're in a trance. It's like we're in a script, right? We're not conscious, we're not aware, we're just living in this script, in this trance, and we're reacting almost unconsciously, asleep. But when we wake up, when we become conscious, when we look at it consciously, we say, I see. I needed to cry. I needed to scream. I needed to talk to this person. I needed to tell them how I feel. I needed to stop holding all this anger inside that I've been holding. I needed space. I needed to be able to get away from somebody or something. I needed to not do that. I needed to be lazy. I needed to be taken care of, right? I needed to be a child again. I needed to give up all this responsibility, being a mother or a wife or a grown-up or whatever it is that you are, right? I need permission on an unconscious level, on a subconscious level, to feel my feelings, to run away from my feelings, to take a break, right? You need these permissions. And this is the pleasure part. So you don't even view it as pleasure. Some wouldn't even say that's pleasurable, to be crying or to be having an argument. But it is pleasurable because it's serving a need. It's giving you something that you needed. So I hope you can see that. Because a lot of times people buck the notion that they're getting pleasure out of it, but they don't see that the pleasure could be something that they don't even want. They don't want an argument. but yet it is giving them pleasure because it's giving them the opportunity to say something deep down that they need to say, right? Or to form a connection. Maybe you just want to be having this argument because you want connection, you want to be seen, you want to be heard, right? So there's a reason. There is a reason. And we're reluctant to call it pleasure, but it is giving us our needs, filling our needs. It's good for us in some way on a subconscious level, and that's why it's hard for us to see. That's why it's hardest for us to see that these pain patterns are manufactured to some degree. So I really want you to stop and just take a breath. Take that in. Just take it in for a minute. Okay, so if you can agree and if you can acknowledge that there's pleasure in these negative patterns that we're playing out, and this negative pain pattern, this negative anxiety pattern, this negative symptomology pattern, disease pattern, relationship pattern, whatever it is, once you can see it clearly and you're like, I need to argue all the time because there must be a lot of things that I feel I need to say that people aren't acknowledging, that they're not hearing, right? Or I need to cry a lot because I have a lot of emotions inside that I'm pushing down and I'm not letting myself feel, right? I need to get away from the situation a lot. Like I need to have me time or alone time to be able to like crawl into bed or to go take my walk or to get away from the family because I feel too much pressure, right? I need to take pressure off myself. And this is the only way I can get it if things get bad enough that I am able to go retreat and take a break. So those are just a few examples. However, once we become conscious of it, we can now say, okay, these are the negative unconscious patterns that I'm doing in order to get that need met. Like that I need to be able to take breaks, or I need to be able to be comforted, or I need to be able to be heard, or I need to be able to be seen, or I need some attention, or I need to, whatever it is. And then we replace these negative patterns. Once we become conscious and you write it down and you really look at it, you understand what you're trying to get, what need you're trying to meet, where the pleasure in this is, and you consciously now substitute that with healthy, conscious choices. So maybe you say, I'm going to take an hour for myself every day at this time to go escape, to do whatever I want, to read a book, to curl up. Like you allow yourself alone time if that's the thing that you're trying to get. Or maybe, it's that you need to be heard. Well, I'm going to start to create a different relationship, a new friendship, a new person in my life, or really work on the communication with my spouse or whoever it is I'm feeling that I'm lacking. I'm going to set up these ways to get positive communication with them, as opposed to playing out these unconscious patterns. And so I really hope that you will do this exercise because it's so eye-opening and it's so important. But one of the things that can be hiding is that we can have like a fixation to suffering itself. And so part of our patterns here is that the pleasure that we're getting is actually from suffering, right? We always need to have a problem, and that serves us in some way to always have a problem. So think about that if you're not getting anywhere with these exercises. So if you find yourself being unable to find that subconscious or unconscious pattern that you're getting pleasure from, it might actually be this. It might actually be the fact that you're getting pleasure from actually always having pain or suffering, and that serves you in some way, and you need to find out how that's serving you. What are you getting from it? What is the pleasure that's being derived from always being the one, right? Maybe you enjoy being a victim. And I'm not saying this in a negative way, because there is enjoyment in being a victim, right? You get taken care of, you get comfort, you get understanding, you get love, you get focus, you get pity. I mean, these are all things that we consciously do not want, but subconsciously we want them because it helps nurture us. So what we're really needing is to be loved and to be taken care of and to feel like we matter, right? That might be the need. So it is really hard to do this work because it's at such a deep, fundamental, subconscious, unconscious level. It's hard to see. But if you can start to break it down and see what you're deriving from it and really being honest with yourself, then you can start to empower yourself with other ways to get that. And that's where the power comes. That's where the healing comes. Because you can get those needs through this dark, unconscious, like patterns that you're doing, or you can consciously get it from powerful choices that you're making in your life, right from the light. So we can either change, we can get energy, we can source through darkness or through light, and we want to do it through light. We want to do it through conscious, eye-opening, conscious choices that we're making and steer the direction of our own ship and our own life, right? Because otherwise we're getting what we need through darkness, through unconscious patterning, but we're never going to steer that ship. We're always reacting to life, and we're having to get our needs met through the back door, basically. So I'm asking you to go through the front doors, push the front doors wide open and get what you need that way, consciously, knowing you're not going to get your needs met every time, but that you're going to try. You're going to put constructs in your life in place that are going to help you get the very thing that you need. It's not always going to work, but when we become conscious of it and we keep trying to put those in place, it's a very empowering way to get our needs met, rather than a very disempowering way, right? We either get our needs met through the back door or through the front door. And I'm asking you to change your mind, to plant your feet on the ground, to look forward, to be conscious of what's happening, and to get your needs met, right? Through the light, through conscious awareness, and take responsibility for what's happening and put things, you have to take action and put things in your life and take responsibility for putting things in your life that are going to meet those needs in a more positive manner, in a way that you're going to steer the ship to where you want your life to go. So I hope that this video makes sense. I hope it helps you. And if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe and hit the like button and share this video. Thanks very much, and I'll keep making them.